40 people were killed by M23 in the eastern DRC in July. And a three-day meeting underway in South Africa with the House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders. But first up, the news with Onele Nzinzi and our sports headlines with Msibudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. Great Lakes analyst Stephanie Walters says the Democratic Republic of Congo government and the M23 rebel group are still far from reaching any substantive resolution to the conflict in the east of the country. This is peace talks in Doha between the two parties group have hit a roadblock with the 18th of August deadline for final agreement now missed. The rebels accused the Congolese army of breaking an earlier agreement while fighting in eastern DRC has continued, displacing hundreds of thousands and claiming hundreds of lives. Walter explains.
Ever since we had this ceasefire being signed, absolutely nothing has changed on the ground. Both parties have violated the ceasefire. The M23 committed a massacre of 300 civilians just several weeks ago. Both parties have had have spoken publicly in a very hostile manner about one another. I think the parties are still very, very far apart when it comes to any kind of substantive resolution of the fundamental issues.
Human Rights Watch says it's compiled evidence that Congolese M23 rebels killed at least 140 civilians last month, mostly ethnic Hutu men, women and children. The alleged massacre near Virunga National Park would be one of the deadliest attacks by the M23 rebels in more than 3 years. The BBC's Barbara Platt-Asher.
The mass killings are said to have taken place amongst farmers camping in their fields during planting season, apparently victims of an M23 campaign against an armed group of the same Hutu ethnicity. The M23 strongly denied the UN report, but Human Rights Watch spoke to witnesses who said the accounts were true, that the men were killed in the fields, that many of the women and children were marched to a river and executed there, and that the killing took place over a wider area than the UN had initially reported and went on for longer.
The Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs in Nigeria, Nassim Muazu, has reiterated the state's government's commitment in supporting community-based security initiatives while actively working to eradicate criminal elements in northwest Katsina State region. This after gunmen killed 13 people at a mosque during morning prayer yesterday. There's been an increasing number of attacks in the region as armed gangs raid villages, kidnap residents for ransom and ban their homes. Civil society group My Vote Counts has criticized South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to raise the annual political donation limit from $849,000. Ramaphosa has raised the disclosure threshold from $5,000 to $11,000. Joel Bregman, a senior researcher at My Vote Counts, says that the changes will reduce transparency in political funding. He also says they will potentially allow private interests to exert greater influence and increase the risk of corruption.
It's disappointing. It's taking us back to a situation where we have more secrecy in our political funding system, and the increase of the maximum amount a donor can donate to 30 million rand, what it does is it actually gives donors more power to influence, and it makes parties more susceptible to that influence. So it's not a good day for democracy and for transparency and accountability.
Lastly, Israeli media are reporting that tens of thousands of military reservists will be called up in the coming weeks ahead of the planned ground offensive to capture all of Gaza City. Sunday saw a nationwide strike in Israel to oppose the government's plan. The BBC's Yolanda Nell.
1 million residents are expected to be told to leave after new shelters are set up in southern Gaza. Many of Israel's allies have condemned the idea. Palestinians say that already there's been intense bombing of some neighbourhoods of Gaza City, with many families fleeing or trapped. While Israeli officials have said that the government will no longer accept a partial ceasefire deal, returning only half the living hostages, there are also reports that the new proposal put forward by regional mediators is being reviewed. The White House said the US continued to discuss it.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom at channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Sudan holds champions Senegal to seal top spot in a Chan Group D, while record crowds are expected for the World Cup final. That's the World Cup Women's Final, the Rugby Women's World Cup Final that is set to take place later on this month in England. Details of these and other stories coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. We are on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an open view channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
The KZN Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Millvest Advisory and the city of Umhlatuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Forum Africa aims to promote secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism investment in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from the 27th to the 29th of August at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, today on #Africa Updates, ask former Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has blamed the lack of development in Africa on poor governance, weak institutions, and the effects of a colonial system. Now, our question to you is, do you agree with his views? And what does Africa need to do for its development? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. Send us your voice notes and comments to +2763 at 406-9126 #Africa Update Us.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
The former Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo has blamed the lack of development in Africa on poor governance, weak institutions, and the effects of a colonial system which could not promote enduring development because it was deliberately designed and administered solely to facilitate the extraction of Africa's mineral resources. He was speaking in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, at the 23rd graduation ceremony of the National Defense College, serving as a guest lecturer on issues related to Africa's development and ways to overcome its endemic obstacles. Channel Africa's news correspondent in Nigeria, Collins Nusa Ayohengbe, has more.
The first salvo fired by the former Ghanaian president, the numerous problems hindering Africa's development, and the endless situation of poor governance which has since independence in the continent remained intractable and has continuously affected the continent's efforts to develop. Not done yet with the continued presence of slow pace and in some cases motionless administrative styles, Nana Akufo-Addo said part of the problems is traceable to the colonial system which left no enduring foundation upon which Africa could successfully have built on for sustainable development. The colonial system, he emphasized, was designed to continuously focus on extraction of Africa's mineral resources without thinking of the future of the continent. Nana Addo noted that in addition to this, fragile democratic authoritarianism and conflict has done much to distract the continent from expected progress. The commandant of the Nigerian Defense College, Admiral James Okosun, told the press that while Nigeria made laudable efforts to overcome the situation painted by the former Ghanaian leader, incidences of terrorism, banditry, secessionist activities, and kidnapping in different parts of the country have all impacted negatively on Nigeria's modest effort. The Nigerian Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abubakar, disclosed that while this situation lingered, Nigeria has made enormous investment in ensuring that development is made for the benefit of the country and the continent in general. Mohammed said the present administration in particular is taking steps to create stability on all fronts of governance. The Nigerian Defense College has participants from many parts of Africa, especially ECOWAS member nations, Europe and Asia, and it has become one of the many veritable military academic institutions for supporting diplomatic ties. From Lagos, Nigeria, I'm Collins Nosa Atohingbe for Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
A Human Rights Watch report says that the M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo killed at least 140 people in the eastern DRC in July. The report highlighted how violence remains elevated despite a peace deal underway in Qatar. Our total killings in the Rutshuru territory may exceed 300, echoing similar findings by the United Nations last month. The M23 rebels say they are not part of talks which started this week in Qatar. And to unpack this for us, we are joined on the line by political analyst Didier Bayeye. Didier, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Good afternoon to the listeners. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Now, Didier, okay, please unpack this for us. The M23 rebels say they are not part of the talks which started this week in Qatar. So who are the M23 rebels in Qatar representing, or are there any there?
Okay, Lulu, this has been a back and forth process. Before they were there, now they are no longer there. They are represented, or they are not represented in Qatar. They want a talk, they want a negotiation, they want national dialogue, or after sometimes they do not want. It's really very, very confusing. It feels like the M23 are in a deep limbo and they're not too sure of what exactly they want with the ongoing negotiation process in Qatar. Now, if they are saying that they are not in Qatar, they are not in the negotiation, so who is there and who is representing them? The very same people who were there were attending, even though before we heard that it was Rwanda, whom we believe also spoke on behalf of M23, but it's not clear if at this stage it's still Rwanda who's there or it is their own representative. And then if they are not there in Qatar, why, first of all, why don't they want to be there if they say that all they wanted was a national dialogue? Why this time they do not want to be in Qatar? So this all shows when the conversation or the dialogue, the negotiations are not going their way, then they all of a sudden withdraw from the talk to keep the conflict ongoing so that they can perpetrate the killings and the destructions of life like they've been doing and like it's reported by the Human Rights Watch. Yes.
Are we sure that the people who are known to be the leaders of the M23 group are really the leaders? Do we know exactly who the leaders are?
Yes, we do know who the leaders are, but we still believe those showing faces are not the true leaders. Maybe they are the leaders on social media or they are the leaders on the ground. because the real leaders do not want to show their faces. They don't want to come out clearly and say that we are the leaders of M23, beside the few faces which we see parading on social media, portraying themselves as the leaders of M23. There are apparently other leaders who are amongst them, but they are not known, or they are not too popular, if I have to say. For example, last time when they were in Qatar, it's not the common names we hear and we see usually that were there. It was different people, different names, and some of them were actually seen for the very first time, not known by the public. So we believe they are there, and we know the deep structure of M23.
All right. So now, Didier, looking at this report, survivors of what they endured is hectic, coming from the Human Rights Watch report, including how they had to watch loved ones dying, and how do these people now go on with their lives, while government and the rebels are continuing with this back and forth that is not coming up with long-term solutions.
Lulu, it's very sad to see what's happening. And this thing is happening under the watch of the whole world, under the watch of the African Union, under the watch of the regional blocs, and how Africa is quiet about it. How can people come, seize a town, and call themselves liberators? All they do is executing people in very atrocious manners, killings of children, men and women, any age, on a daily basis, to the point of counting over 300 people in 1 month. These guys would literally pick young boys from their families or from the soccer field and just say that they training to be military to fight against them, and they will go and execute them. And young people are being taken away to be seen no more, and no news about them. There were also reports of the M23 rebels denying access to the UN observers because they do not want them to go and find out and discover all these mass graves that's lying almost all over in the region or those towns occupied by these rebels. People are living in fear, in uncertainty. Tomorrow is not a guarantee, while this negotiation process is really dragging. And why do they feel, the question we cannot understand, why do they feel the need to be killing civilians, executing innocent people under pretext of the claim that they want? Are they finally getting what they want by killing people? Clearly not. So why nobody is saying anything? Well, we acknowledge and applaud the effort done by the government of the DRC, through the US and Qatar in trying to mediate and bring peace.
I was just coming to that a number of these killings seemingly happened, or the report states that it happened after the June 27th US brokered preliminary deal between the DRC and Rwanda, and the peace negotiations in Qatar between Congo and the M23 rebels. Now, would this now question the motives and reasoning behind any of these deals?
I personally do not think it has to do with the deal. We will all remember that the M23 rebels also they were also labeled as a terrorist group. And as this kind of practice and behavior goes just to confirm why they are terrorists, because this behavior is clearly the behavior of terrorists, people that want to cause terror. They come illegally, unlawfully, with every sort of weapons, and will seize a certain portion of land and execute people. It is their behavior that confirm that these people are terrorists. It has nothing to do with the deal, because when we look at this deal, different paragraphs, this deal consists, most part of it is to bring peace in the eastern part of the DRC. And then now, who doesn't want peace? We do not see the DRC government or army killing its own civilians or people. Yet it is this M23 rebels that are busy killing people. It just shows that they do not want peace. They do not settle for disagreement. Even though it is signed, they're still going even further to kill more. This is just to show also disrespect to the entire world and the Africa as a continent, and even the regional bloc. And we hardly hear the regional bloc head of states condemning this, coming against this, putting in strategy in place to end this. This justifies the reason why nothing could be done at that level. Only the US had to take a step forward and put the foot down. Now we could see that it start looking like something is about to happen that will bring permanent peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
But generally,
but
it hasn't actually.
In the meantime, lives are still being lost.
Yeah, well, Didier, we have run out of time and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you, Lulu Gaboo.
That's political analyst Didier Bayeye joining us on the line. It is 22 after 12 Central African Time.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Hutokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini hauwezi kuendelea. Ukiona, ongea. Ikiwa unaumia, funguka, kwa sababu kutofanya lolote sio chaguo. Sikiliza vituo vyote 19 vya redio kuanzia Jumatano ya tarehe 23 Julai kwenye mijadala, ushauri, tamthilia, maonyesho ya elimu na mahojiano na wataalamu, manusura, watunga sheria na nchi nzima iliyoathirika na ukatili wa kijinsia kwenye vituo vyako pendwa vya redio. Piga simu 0800 428 ili kuripoti unyanyasaji au kupata msaada. GBV ikomeshwe na wewe. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na shirika la SABC.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Today is World Mosquito Day, a reminder of the fight against malaria, one of Africa's deadliest diseases. Now, this year, Kenya became one of the first countries to approve the Permanet Jewel, a new generation mosquito net designed to combat insecticide resistance. And to tell us more about this breakthrough and Africa's role in malaria innovation, we are joined by Duncan Kobia Atinia, a senior technical manager at Vestergaard. Duncan, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, and thank you for hosting me.
Now, Duncan, why is it urgent to accelerate the fight against malaria now?
I think it's important to accelerate the fight against malaria because 125 years later, since Sir Ronald Rose proved that malaria spreads through Anopheles mosquito, this disease still leverages our children and our pregnant mothers, the most vulnerable in our community. And therefore, it's very important to keep developing tools and to keep evolving as the disease evolves, as well as the transmission evolves, so that we stay ahead of malaria and be able to eliminate malaria once and for all, particularly in Africa, which holds more than 90% of the burden.
Now, what makes the new Permanet Jewel mosquito net different from previous generations?
Permanent Duo is our latest technology at Vestergaard, and Permanent Duo is what we call duo active insecticide treated nets. And what this basically means is its mode of action is a duo mode of action, where we have two types of insecticides. We have clofenapac and we have deltamethrin, and clofenapac is able to target the mosquito's energy system, while deltamethrin is able to target the insect's nervous system. And this way, with this dual mode of action, then it guarantees that the mosquitoes will be incapacitated, whether there is resistance or not.
And how are African scientists and research institutions contributing to malaria innovation?
I mean, Africa is very talented. We have very talented scientists, we included. And what we need as African scientists is a collaboration to build tailor-made solutions for Africa. With the aspect of the company I work for, Vestergaard, Vestergaard directly employs and supports scientists in Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa, and many more countries in Africa. And what this does, it includes strong collaborations with institutions such as the WITS Health Institute in South Africa, the Malaria Alert Center in Malawi, the Kenya Medical Research Institute in Kenya, other institutes in Tanzania, and particularly an institute in Ghana, the Noguchi Memorial Institute of Medical Research, where we do have a partnership that led to development of a lab. This partnership is now 14 years old, so basically we target long-term partnerships. And within this partnership, we've been able to not only ensure that we have cutting-edge technology such as Permanent Duo in the fight against malaria, but also be able to develop capacity-building channels for scientists, not just Ghanaian scientists for VNVL, but also scientists across other parts of Africa to support malaria control and elimination efforts. And what these scientists do is work closely with governments. Once you work closely with governments, then you're able to contribute to government targets in malaria control and elimination.
Let's talk about the impact of insecticide resistance and climate challenges.
I mean, insecticide resistance basically is an aspect where the mosquitoes evolve, and the insecticides that used to kill the mosquitoes no longer kill the mosquitoes. And this basically means you have an intervention that you deploy. You expect the intervention to work and reduce malaria to certain levels, but then you don't achieve these levels because the mosquitoes are now very tolerant. You give them the insecticides, they no longer die. And so when you're able to innovate tools that are able to mitigate the aspects of insecticide resistance, such as the Permanent Duo that I mentioned, then you are able to kill the mosquitoes and not just protect the people who sleep under the nets that contain these new insecticides, but also protect the community by killing the mosquito that would have otherwise bitten a person not protected by a net. And basically, how this links to climate change is if you have tools that actually work across board on the mosquitoes, despite climate change aspects such as expansion of mosquitoes to areas where they were not before, you have tools that can combat that and then mitigate the effects.
And what message do you have for the public this World Mosquito Day?
Sleep under nets, ensure you're using the best tools, and always stay aware. I mean, the government efforts will not just work because they're government efforts. They also need the people to be proactive in them. When you are given a net, for example, ensure you use it correctly, because when you use a net correctly, it's been shown that you can actually reduce up to 70% of malaria. So use the net correctly, make sure you sleep under it, and be proactive. Help the government combat this disease. It's not just about the government bringing the tools, it's also about the individuals in the community. Let's build our science base as well.
Duncan, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you very much.
That's Duncan Kobia Athenia, a senior technical manager at Vestergaard, joining us on the line. It is 12:29 Central African time, and today on hashtag Africa Updates Ask, we focus on Ghana's former president Nana Akufo-Addo blaming the lack of development in Africa on poor governance, weak institutions, and the effects of a colonial system. Now, our question to you today is: do you agree with his views? And what does Africa need to do for its development? Share your thoughts and on all our social media platforms at Channel Africa 1, at X and Instagram, on Facebook at Channel Africa. Send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Asks. It is 12:30 and our news headlines up next with Onele Nzinti.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. The political atmosphere in Uganda has intensified after key opposition figures and hundreds of citizens flocked to the Electoral Commission to collect presidential nomination forms ahead of the 2026 elections. Civil society group My Vote Counts has criticized South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to raise the annual political donation limits. Joel Bregman, a senior researcher at My Vote Counts, says that the changes will reduce transparency in political funding. And authorities in the Pakistani city of Karachi have declared an emergency and public holiday after torrential monsoon rains paralyzed the financial capital. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinti.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with the latest sports news. At the Sawa, so Sudan as well as Senegal both advanced to the quarterfinals of the Total Energies African Nations CHAN tournament after playing out to a tense goalless draw at Zanzibar's Amman Stadium last night. The result now ensured Sudan topped Group D on goal difference, with the holders Senegal progressing in the second place. At the same time, Nigeria defeated Congo by 2-0 in Dar es Salaam, but the Super Eagles' late push was not enough to dislodge the two unbeaten sides. Now, the draw set up a tantalizing last 8 lineup. So, Sudan will remain in Zanzibar and will face off with Algeria, while Senegal will travel all the way to Kampala to meet the co-host Uganda for a place in already the semi-finals of this CHAN tournament. Onto this now, the Women's Rugby World Cup final at Twickenham has sold out, making it likely to be the biggest ever crowd for a once-off women's rugby match. The current record was also set at Twickenham at 82,000 capacity at the Alines Stadium, when 58,498 watched England beat France in the 2023 Six Nations tournament. At the Paris 2024 Games, 66,000 watched the opening day of the Women's Rugby Sevens at the Stade de France. Across the 32-team tournament, which starts officially on Friday, 375,000 of the 470,000 tickets had already been sold, 3 times the number sold at the last World Cup in New Zealand back in 2021. So World Rugby also confirmed on Tuesday that this Women's World Cup semi-finalists will then automatically qualify for the 2029 edition, joining the host side, Australia. On to some cricket news now. Keshav Maharaj became the first South African spinner to take 300 wickets across all formats when he took 5 in the first one-day international against Australia in Cairns on Monday. Maharaj's 5 for 33 earned South Africa a comprehensive 98-run victory, having earlier in the day posted 296 batting first. The 35-year-old is now on 304 wickets, 13 ahead of Imran Tahir, who sits on 291 wickets, and also says the record is a nice to have, but he's more now concerned about team accolades than individual ones.
Yeah, it's special. I didn't know that, so thanks for that. But yeah, I think there's a lot more that I want to learn and a lot more for me to sort of achieve in my career, especially with the team, and try win more trophies together as a nation. So it's a nice feather to have the cap, and hopefully I can keep raising that bar for spinners coming through in our systems.
Right, so this was also the first ODI 5-wicket haul for Maharaja's distinguished career as he got rid of Marnus Labuschagne, Cameron Green, John Engels, Alex Carey as well as Aaron Hardy. He also admitted that while he doesn't go out looking for 5-4s, it's the relief to finally get it in this format of the game.
Yeah, look, I'm not someone who sort of bowls for fifers. I'm a process-driven person, so I judge myself on my consistency and my length. So, yeah, I think it was more a sigh of relief to finally tick the box. And yeah, I mean, you dream of playing international cricket, you dream of putting match-winning performances, and the dreams keep building. But to be able to sort of tick the box of getting a 5 will always be special, but probably more a sigh of relief than anything else.
Right, so that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makure.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. The Midnight Snack, 12 to 3 a.m.
Young couples or young people that are getting married, we often hear of divorces, that they're getting divorced, and it's quite worrying because when we attend these weddings, we want to see these people flourish and celebrate 30-year anniversaries. What do you think is the main challenge that is facing newlyweds?
We say that tell me how you were raised and I'll tell you how you love. So when we see people getting married, that's not where the relationship actually starts. The relationship starts with how you were raised, what you were familiar with, because we are attracted to what we are familiar with. If you don't have a background where love was prominent, where love was authentic, it's going to be very difficult for you to manufacture that in later life. So our upbringing has something to do with it.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
With your business news this hour, I'm Matabara Mahabe. Good afternoon. South Africa's headline consumer inflation jumped to 3.3% in July from 3% in June of 2025. According to Statistics South Africa, this is the highest rate since September of 2024, when it was at 3.8%. The main contributors to the annual inflation rate were food and non-alcoholic beverages, particularly meat, followed by municipal tariffs. Notando Magudulela reports.
Inflation for food and non-alcoholic beverages rose to 5.7% from 5.1% in this period. The rise in this category was mainly due to higher meat prices. On average, beef prices increased by 7.6% between June and July. Another driver to the annual inflation were municipal tariffs, which are adjusted annually in July. In this period, water and electricity tariffs increased by 12.1% and 10.6% respectively.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing legal pressure from the Association of Regional Magistrates of Southern Africa, AMSA, to implement a 34% salary increase for magistrates. The court challenges highlights a deepening tension between constitutional obligations to uphold judicial independence and the government's need to contain South Africa's ballooning public wage bill, now at just over $41.9 billion. Ian Cox is the president of AMSA.
The reason that I've recommended it is because we have been wronged for the past approximately 15 years, where we constantly received salary increases below the inflation rate, and the increases has not kept up with the increase in our roles, responsibilities and workload in the judiciary as a whole.
The hearing of South Africa's Competition Commission's pursuit of justice in the decades-long rand manipulation matter is set to resume in the Constitutional Court. The Commission has stressed that the issue of jurisdiction is crucial or critical because without it, a regulatory gap would remain. It says that this would effectively allow anyone to conclude in fixing the rand's value without consequences. Advocate Tembeka Ncukaitobi, who is representing the Competition Commission.
So the pleading before the tribunal and before the CAC has been consistent with the arguments I am making today, which is the jurisdiction because the economic activity complained of has an effect in South Africa. So that has never changed. This is not a new case.
And Kenya's economy is forecast to grow 5.6% this year despite the tariffs and other challenges, more than the 4.7% growth recorded last year. That was higher than the Finance Ministry's forecast of 5.3% and the Central Bank's 5.2%, both made in June. Onto this now, Lobito Atlantic Railway, LRA, aims to finalize by the end of this year a $533 million loan deal with the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation that is vital for the upgrade of its Angolan concession. The U.S. development lender pledged the loan in 2024 to support the revamp of 1,300 kilometers of railways. This is an effort to provide a quick route to haul minerals that are critical to the global shift to cleaner energy. And look at your financial indicators. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 533, and Botswana it's 13 pula 40. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 40, and in Zambia it's 23 kwacha 27. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 46. Russia is 80 rubles 61. India it's 87 rupees 11. In China it's 7 yuan 18, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rands 65 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. A look at your commodities. Gold is trading at $3,326 and platinum at $1,312 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $66.60 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Matapala Mahabe.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 12:42 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our researchers at South Africa's Stellenbosch University found first evidence of rare phenolic compounds in cannabis leaves. Now, phenolic compounds are sought after in the pharmaceutical industry for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory and carcinogenic properties. Now, the researchers identified 79 phenolic compounds in 3 strains of cannabis grown commercially in South Africa, of which 25 were reported for the first time in cannabis. Now, Professor Andre de Villiers at the Department of Chemistry and Polymer Science at Stellenbosch University spoke to Channel Africa's reporter, Tuto Ngobeni.
Well, in the analysis of cannabis leaf material, we first of all used a technique called two-dimensional liquid chromatography, to separate the individual constituents or metabolites. We then detected the flavoalkaloids using a technique called high-resolution mass spectrometry, which provides information on the molecular formula of the compounds, in other words, the number of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen atoms in the molecule. By fragmenting the molecule in mass spectrometry and interpreting their fragmentation behavior, we can then make deductions about their structures.
Is this rare in such plants?
Flavoalkaloids are extremely rare, yes. To explain this, they are derivatives of so-called flavonoids, which are very widespread in the plant kingdom, with more than 10,000 flavonoids identified to date. In contrast, only a small number of flavoalkaloids, less than 50, have been identified, and these were only detected in a relatively small number of species and never before in cannabis.
Take us through the phenolic compounds and their role.
In terms of the phenolic compounds and their role in plants, as I said, phenolic compounds are a very diverse class of metabolites, and they're very common in the plant kingdom overall. The primary role of phenolic molecules in plants is for protection from UV light, pathogens, and pests, for example. From a human perspective, however, they are important components of our diet since we do not biosynthesize these molecules. Phenolics are especially potent antioxidants, so they are associated with many health benefits. This is one of the reasons why, for example, consuming fruits is considered to be good for us.
Now that you have discovered these compounds, what's next?
Well, we've been continuing to work on cannabis. In the initial work that was reported in this paper, we only detected the flavoalkaloids in one strain. And so we were interested to investigate their prevalence in the species as a whole. We have since grown and analyzed more strains and detected the flavoalkaloids in about 3/4 of these, so they do seem to be relatively prevalent. The next steps will be to isolate sufficient quantities of these compounds so that we can investigate their bioactivity in the laboratory. Bearing in mind that cannabis leaf material is currently a waste product of the industry, there is potential for valorization of this material based on the potential medicinal use of its phenolic constituents.
That is Professor Andre de Villiers at the Department of Chemistry and Polymer Science at Stellenbosch University on the line to Channel Africa's news reporter, Tuto Ngobeni.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:47 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The 2025 National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Imbizo, taking place in Boksburg in the east of Johannesburg in the Gauteng province of South Africa, enters its second day today. The three-day meeting is called to review the progress made in ensuring rural development, social cohesion and land matters, among others. On Wednesday, different political parties in the Government of National Unity are expected to address the over 300 delegates from the royal leaders of South Africa, the National Khoisan Council, and representatives of the provincial and local houses of traditional leaders, among others. And for more on this, we are joined on the line by the chairperson of the National Khoisan Council, Cecile Lafleur. Cecile, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Now, Cecile, tell us more about this Imbizo.
As you said, the Imbizo was called to review in the middle of the term what progress has been made. And we reflect here on issues of, as you rightfully said, of social justice, unemployment, the protection and the development of the cultures and traditions and customs of the different royal groupings in the country, including the Khoi and the San as the first indigenous peoples of this country. So that is what we are reflecting on.
And so far, are you happy with discussions that have taken place and, at the Imbizo? And what would you like to see come out of this Imbizo? And obviously, I would presume that it would be actionable and with accountability at the end of the day.
Yes. There's always this elephant in the room, and that is the lack of implementation. And so for the Khoi and the San people who are not yet recognized in this country of their origin as the first indigenous peoples or traditional communities, for us, it is really an opportunity to raise our concerns to the ministers that are here, to the different traditional councils that are here, and we made it clear in this midterm review that the Khoi and San people have been fighting for their recognition for more than 30 years now, and still the Khoi and San people are not formally, statutorily recognized in this country. So that is one of the main issues that we want to bring to this Imbizo. And then we are also worried about the Commission on Khoi San Issues. That is a body that was established out of the Act 3 of 2019, the Traditional and Khoi San Leadership Act. That out of that act, it was commissioned that a commission must be established to investigate all the Khoi and San leadership structures and Khoi and San communities. Investigate may be the wrong terminology, rather to research these communities, these peoples. So this commission is now up and running for almost 3 years, and the progress that they have made is very little. And we also raise at this Imbizo the issue of the commission, where we ask the minister and the deputy ministers who are here to look into the reasons why this commission could not make progress in the way that we as Khoisan people would like it to do.
And what response did you get with that question and everything that hasn't been happening with regards to your recognition from the government of South Africa, and what sort of response did you get?
Now the response is was that the minister will be back. The minister responsible for traditional affairs will be back here in this meeting this afternoon, and he will then meet with me to respond to my questions.
And apart from the recognition of the Khoisan people, what other submissions have you put forward at the Imbizo?
We also raised the issue of support from the South African government for the National Khoisan Council to do its work. Up till now, for over 30 years, the Khoisan Council did not get any meaningful support from the government, except from calling meetings, setting the platform for us to engage with them. And as you follow what I have said, you can clearly see that even that was not really worth the while, because nothing concrete materialized out of that discussions.
We've seen the silent protests that have been taking place at the union buildings and other places with regards to this your call and the submissions that you've made, and the protest of people, the Khoisan people being there, and my question is, has anything come from that? Has anything come of that in terms of, if somebody's driving into the workplace at the parliament, for instance, in Pretoria, the capital city of the country, and they see, people protesting, but quietly and sleeping there, and, what does it mean? Does it not tug at the heartstrings of individuals? Why is it so difficult for the recognition to happen?
It did not render real results up till now. And I think why it is so difficult, that is my assumption and some others, but this is not an official assumption or a concrete fact, is that the government, and not the government alone, but the Nguni or the black South Africans fear the fact that the Khoisan people can be proved to be the first landowners of Southern Africa. They were the first inhabitants that ever inhabited Southern Africa for time immemorial. So it can be difficult politically for them to accept that the Khoisan people, in fact, have grounds for claim, which I don't think will be the case, because the Khoisan people, in comparison to the black Bantu-speaking people in this country, is little. It's a small group of people in comparison with the very large black Bantu-speaking citizens of this country.
Well, Cecil,
I have that.
Yes,
that is my assumption.
All right. Well, Cecil, we will leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you.
That's Cecil Lefleur, the chairperson of the National Khoisan Council, joining us on the line.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
This August, we celebrate the strength, brilliance, and unstoppable spirit of African women.
It was the women themselves who strove for and got the changes by lobbying, going through NGOs, and by networking.
That's you, ladies. From the boardroom to the classroom, from the marketplace to the microphone, women are leading, innovating, and transforming our continent every day.
Here's to knowing that as a woman, your voice can change the world.
Your voice matters. Your story inspires. Your presence is powerful. This Women's Month, we honor you. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, it is that time of the day where we say it is hump day. It is Wednesday today, isn't it?
It is absolutely hump day, lady. You are correct.
Yes. So what's coming up today on the upside?
Okay, so just after 1, we kick off the upside. And, we always bring you some wonderful content, lifestyle-wise, from the African continent. We're going to be talking about the taste of heritage on the move with the Braai brothers. So it's something that's been established since the year 2016, and it's all about authentic South African braaiing. So think of a barbecue. I think that's the more universal term. We're going to speak about that from a universal South African context, I want to say. We're going to talk about a concept known as the Braai brothers. So stick around that as we enter the first hour. And then another wonderful thing that we're going to be looking at is how we can connect South Africa and the Ukraine through history, culture, and tourism in Mazeppa Bay. So it looks like the Eastern Cape has some hidden gems, and we're going to explore that in the Wild Coast and also see how that can meet with the Ukraine. That's just some of the things you can look forward to this afternoon.
That's the upside coming up at the top of the hour with Matsuko Musito as well as Debohole Kuleni. From myself, Lulu Gaboo, and the Africa Update team, it's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow. And thank you to our producer, Tracy Bumgar, technical operator, Bongi Moyo, and social media, Swiso Hlope, and talent Butelezi. Continue with us on our socials, and tomorrow it's a date.
SABC News. The African perspective.